It is time and we are ready to set up for a new month. This month we're going with a watermelons theme. Is it watermelon appropriate weather? Absolutely not. But that's okay. Honestly, I feel like sometimes we put a little bit too much weight on whether a theme is like month appropriate. If a watermelon theme is not appropriate for the month coming for you, you can of course save it for another month. But before we get into setting up our pages, we're going to flip back and see how the current month is going. For the month that was, or technically currently is, given that it's only the 21st today, we went with a Love is Love Potions theme using the colours of the bisexual pride flag. So on the first page here we had the projects list. This is something that I've actually been finding really helpful to have at the start of the month, so that will certainly be staying in the month ahead. We have the cover page here with the month title and the decoration. After this we're into our Dutch door pages for the monthly setup. So we have the monthly log, which is in a calendar style. Going to be using a similar style for the month ahead. You can see I never did end up putting a quote in at the top, and I didn't end up filling it with decoration either. We have our little tabs. Flipping over we've got the challenge page, and my challenge for this month was to not spend unnecessarily. That has been going interestingly, we will ignore that. We've got the actions list, which I went through in my 90-day goals video, or my how to set 90-day goals video. This one's actually only half filled in. I never ended up going back and filling in the tasks associated with my content creating goal, but I have done the goal action plan, I just actually need to populate it. So there's only 10 days of the month left, so we'll see. After this we have my book club tracker, and you can see I'm getting there with the book, still got a bit to go. The month in review page, which I will also be keeping. I do need to fill this one in a bit more, but we're not at the end of the month yet, so I got time. After this we have the notes section, which I'm still considering keeping, but I don't think I'll have it across 2 full pages. I think just one would be enough for the month ahead. After this we are into the weekly logs. This first one sadly didn't get used because I was not well this week, so not too sure if the layout actually works for me. I might try it again at some point, but obviously didn't really work for this week because I was sick and didn't really do much of anything. After this I went to a simple 8-box weekly, so by this I mean like 4 boxes on this page, 4 boxes on this page. Worked fairly well for the first part of the week, but I always find that come Thursday, Friday, my energy slumps and then I just stop filling things in. So didn't fill out this part of it, but did like the layout as a whole. We then have a section that I had for my report writing so that I could keep track of my progress towards that. This was going to be a brain dump section, but didn't end up really doing much brain dumping. My steps tracker, which I've only filled in properly up until the 10th. I've got the counts down for the next 10 days, but I need to put in the actual tracking part. After this, we're on to the next weekly, and this one's got a Dutch door as well, but it is a folded Dutch door. So kind of gives you a bit more space than a regular Dutch door would. You can see I've got 2 full columns for tasks here, and 2 full columns on this side as well. On this one we had the habit tracker, priorities list, events for the week, we had a meal plan, and we also have a meal log. So, you know, planning being the stuff that you do before you eat the things, and logging being after you eat the things. These ones were included on this weekly because they were done after I'd properly fleshed out my health-related goal. Flipping over, we're on to my current weekly. So we have a Dutch door again, but not a folded one here. So we've got 2 columns for tasks here and 1 column here. The meal log and the meal planner are both still in here. We've got the habit tracker, event space, and my projects or priorities list. And after this, I have 2 full blank spreads, which I can use for the upcoming weekly. So I'm probably going to do another Dutch door. And then we're in to the month ahead. You can see I have done some penciling in here just to give myself some guidelines so that when it came to penning things in, I kind of know where I want to put things. I'm not 100% sure on what I want to do for my front cover design, but I might go put some titles in first. You might be able to see I am going with bubble letters here, and I'm going to colour them in with our watermelon colours. To start with though, we're going to do the outline, and to do that we're using the 08 Pigma Micron pen. One of the things that I'm in particular trying to do with these bubble letters is keep the thickness of each letter pretty much consistent the whole way around. So roughly 1 grid spacing or half a centimeter. It's not perfect, but I do kind of like the hand-drawn characteristic of it. Erase the pencil lines because we're gonna do some coloring. For our colouring today, I'm using a collection of Tombow dual brush markers. As always, the actual numbers can be found in the description box below, mainly because I don't know what these numbers are, because some of them have worn off completely. Well, at least that's 703 and that's 173, but yeah, these two, I'll find out and I'll put it in the description box. Starting at the bottom, I want to do a stripe of this dark green, just a little bit. This effectively is to mimic the kind of like outside of the watermelon, like, you know, the part that you see before you cut the watermelon. And then after that, we're going to put a light green stripe on top of it, kind of to give us a little faux gradient kind of thing. So first green, now the second green, looking cute. And I'm not drawing the stripes too big, probably only about maybe 2-ish millimeters high. After this, I'm actually going to leave a little gap before I put in the pink, because there's always that white part that's between the pink of the watermelon flesh and the green of the skin, and I kind of want to mimic that in the lettering I have here. So leaving a little gap and then having the pink there. I'm using the bullet end of this one just because it gives me a little bit more control. Okay, pink stripe, pink stripe. And I'm trying to make that pink stripe roughly the same size as the green ones that I have below it. Individually, that is, not together. Just a little bit. Again, it's alright if it's a little wobbly. We like that kind of hand-drawn look here. And then everything above that pink line is going to get coloured in with the darker pink. There we go. So the colour is in now, but watermelons, typically at least the ones that I've eaten, have seeds. So we're going to go and draw some seeds in. We're again going to use a micron for this, but this one is the 01 or the 0.25 millimeter line, so significantly thinner than the one that we did for our outlining. The seeds of a watermelon are kind of loosely teardrop shape, so that's what I'm going to draw onto my watermelons here, or my watermelon lettering. And I don't want like too many, but I want to have a couple, and to make them look like they kind of just randomly throughout the watermelon, change the direction of them, just sprinkle them onto my letters. Ooh, that was not a good one, but we're gonna chuck it in anyways. Giant seed alert. Just the putting in of the colour and adding the little seed shapes, I think, really elevates the lettering, and it's just a nice way to tie in the overall theme to my headers. This is also the lettering style that I'm going to be using throughout the entire of the setup, so all of the headers that I'm doing are going to be in this style. I'm pretty chuffed with how that turned out. I think they look pretty dang cute. Now we need to start thinking about what's actually going on this list. So I know it says to do, but this is actually my projects list. It's just that I couldn't really fit the projects header in there if I wanted to do the watermelon lettering, so I just made it to do's. Before I start scaffolding out each of the sections on this list, I'm going to flip back to the projects list that I have for the current month, just so I can see what spacing I used there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I gave myself a little extra space. I know I'm going to have 9 regularly scheduled videos, but just in case another one comes up, it might be good to have a little more space. For my patron section, I have included 22 spaces, and that seems pretty reasonable, so I can probably go with that. Something that I really liked about this list was having the dots for each of the tasks, so I'm gonna repeat that as well. And the color I'm going to be using for my dots this time is the candy pink, because I think it kind of ties in nicely with that pale pink that we have in the watermelon. Though this one's probably going to be a little bit paler. So we said 22 here. And I know I have 9 videos here. And then a couple of extra ones just in case. After this we have the section for my vlog channel, and I know I have some vlogs that I need to do, because I'm kind of a little behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that was up until the end of this month. 9. I'm going to put in at least 14 spaces for these. So leaving a little space between the top list here and the next part, just so that then I can have a line to divide and then another line for a header. I'm going to need to have a school projects list, which I'll put in this section because it's a little bigger, and I think I might have more school projects than house projects or other projects. So again, leaving a little bit of space, one row for dividing, one row for a header, and then a bunch more dots. These dots I'm also going to probably use on my calendar to mark in the number for each of the days of the month, and I'm also probably going to use them on some future spreads to put in lists as well. Now it's time to put in those header bars that I was talking about, and I think this is another opportunity for me to bring in that watermelon kind of color palette. So I'm going to section off where I want each of the headers to be using some washi tape, just to mask the page from the color that I'm going to be putting down. If you're going to be doing this masking trick with washi tape, do make sure that you use a washi tape that isn't too sticky, because you don't want to rip your paper when you pull it up and away from the page. I'm going to start with the dark green, and I think I'm going to have that at the right hand side of each of the banners, just so that then the part that I'm actually going to write on is in the pink. Yeah, I just think it'll be a little bit easier to see if it's written on the pink. Also, the pink section is going to be larger. So, putting this on the end, just taking up essentially one dot grid box for each of these. And I'm also including a separation between where the dot list is on this side and where the banners finish on the left hand side. After the dark green, we'll go in with the light green. And then between where we put the light green and the pink, we're going to have that white stripe as well. And each of these are just going to be one dot grid box. When it comes to doing the pink, I still want to have that gradient effect, but I don't think I want my banners here to be quite as dark or as saturated as that darker pink color. So I'm just going to use the light pink, but I'm going to go over the darker section twice. So this part here will just be pale pink, but then everything to the left of that is going to be gone over twice and look a little bit more saturated. Hopefully you can kind of see what I mean by that. So the part that we've gone over twice is a little darker, and then that part that we've just gone over once is a little bit paler, and it gives you that gradient. And then just doing this to all of our little banners. This is another element that I'm going to repeat on each of the pages, because remember, repeated elements like this help to tie all of the pages of your setup together. Now it's time to pull up the washi tape and reveal our beautiful headers. Do be careful, because depending on what type of washi tape you're using, some of the color can bead up on the surface, especially with these water-based markers like the ones that I'm using, and we don't want to get ink all over our fingers and then smudge it onto our page, because that'd be kind of unfortunate and kind of defeat the purpose of using the washi tape to mask the page. I think that using the varying colours has just made these banners a little bit more fun. This is a little bit more special. I am going to wait until I am sure that that ink is 100% dry to actually go and label these things. So in the meantime, it's probably time to start thinking about this panel we have down the side. Now, one of the things that I'm going to be doing for my setup is having a kind of Dutch door setup here, where each of the different pages has a letter that sticks out, but that's something to worry about when we get to the cover page. When they get flipped over to this side of the page though, I didn't want you to see my to-do list like awkwardly poking out behind those letters, so I figured I'd put a decorative panel down the side to kind of avoid that issue. In terms of the decoration, I think we're gonna draw some watermelon. But because I'm not feeling super confident about where I want to place things, and also because I just enjoy doing this first, we're gonna go in with pencil. To pencil in our watermelon, it is super simple. I'm gonna be doing some watermelon wedges, so you know, the kind of like triangular pieces. So I just start with a V shape, and then I do a curve from one top of the V to the other. It kind of looks like a pizza slice, but we're going to color it in to be a watermelon slice. I want all of these to kind of stay within this line that I've drawn out, this pencil line, but I don't mind if they come close to that line. I'm not actually going to be drawing this line in. I'm thinking that that might be a little bit too densely packed. I might want less watermelon slices, make it look a little bit more spaced out so it doesn't look so cluttered. Yeah, and this is why we pencil in first. I think that looks a little bit better spaced out. Now, just like we did with our header or title, we're going to do the same process here. So pen, then the green, then the pink. And we're going to use all the same materials for those as well. As I pen things in, I might slightly move the position of things just to kind of fit better with what I want. For instance, this one I think I'm going to move up a little bit, but I'm going to start at the bottom where I know I'm happy with the placement of these pieces and work my way to the top. So just the same kind of process that we used when we were doing the penciling. So putting in that V shape first and then curving from one side to the other. Beautiful. You can see the curved edge is the one that gets the green, because this is kind of meant to represent the skin of the watermelon. Is it called skin, or is it like rind? I don't know, the outside of the watermelon, and then we just do that same process of dark green, then the strip of light green, a section of white, and into the pinks. These watermelon slices are super easy to draw, so I will certainly be using them to fill space with decoration on subsequent pages. Again, another design element that helps tie everything together. Obviously, in this strip we still have a fair bit of white space, so I'm going to go and add in some other little details around the watermelon slices, just to make it look a little more full. Full without being cluttered. For this, I'm mainly going to use the same colours that I had on these banners, so the 2 shades of green and the pale pink, and go and add a couple extra little bits and pieces. Starting with the pink, I'm going to put in some little triangles. These ones are just going to be the triangle outlines. We're not going to have actual coloured in tiny watermelon pieces, but it's just another little element to give it some visual appeal. Another element we'll have are some little circles in varying sizes using this light green. And with the other green, we're just going to do some small dots in amongst all of those. I'm trying to pretty evenly disperse these throughout this panel, but I also want to make sure that it still looks random. I don't want it to look too formulaic in terms of their placement, which is not something that comes easily to me. And again, just going in with our eraser, getting rid of this pencil line that was being used as a guideline. And now we need to finish off those watermelon slices by adding in seeds. Same pen that we used for the headers. For each of my watermelon slices, I'm putting 3 seeds on these. Now we just need to put in the header bars. I'm still not super sure what I want to do with my cover page, but I do know that I want to have the J here. So I'm going to start with that one. To put that in though, because I am right-handed and resting my right hand on nothing to draw this in is tricky, I'm going to flip my journal around. We're using the same 08 size of the micron, and we're just going to go and put that J outline in here. We're also going to decorate this one the same way that we did our other heading before, so the watermelon colours and the little seeds, but I think for this one I'm not going to put the light pink in. Starting again with the dark green though, and putting that at the bottom of our letter. There we go, beautiful. And then the light green. While I did the ones on the to-do title pretty straight, I am curving this one just because it's quite a big letter and I think it deserves the extra special attention. This is a personal style choice, you do not have to do it the same way. And we're going to put the pink in as well, so leaving that gap of white. I think I might put the bullet tip to the paper first. A little bit more control, it means I can actually make sure I get that white section in there, and then colour the rest of the letter in with the pink. And chucking in those little seeds using the 01. I do have this sneaking suspicion that all of the seeds in a watermelon point in the same direction, but I have not done that in drawing out my seeds. I have made my stylistic choice, and it's one of those things that, like, if I started doing it now, then things wouldn't really look matchy-matchy. That would make me sad. I like it when things match. There you go, it looks pretty cute. So like I said, one of the things that I want to do here is make a Dutch door where the letter is a tab, which means when I cut away the Dutch door, I have to ensure there is some of the letter still left on the page. So when I cut my Dutch door, I'm going to cut it so that the edge of the letter is effectively one box in from where the Dutch door is being cut. So you can see the letter ends here. I'm going to be cutting the Dutch door one box over and then from top to bottom, but not through the letter because that would kind of defeat the purpose. To remove the Dutch door section, we'll be using my trusty scissors and then just carefully cutting up along that dotted line up to the letter. And I think I want to leave a little bit of white space on my letter. I don't want it to kind of just be cut up against the black outline. So we won't cut it the full way up to the letter. We're giving it like maybe a millimeter of space around the edge. Turning the book to make the cutting process easier, because there's nothing worse than trying to cut on an awkward angle. That's how mistakes are made, my friends. We don't want to make mistakes. We want to make our journals wonderful, or at least wonderful enough that we'll actually use them, because I am way less inclined to use my journal if I don't think it looks nice. There we go. You see a little edge there? And you can also see, sneaky, sneaky, somebody already went and put in some washi tape. That somebody was me, by the way. If we cut this part off carefully, because this part can still be used for something else. And you can see, haha, big reveal, I've already actually done the Dutch doors beyond this one. I've cut them out already. Proof of concept. But we still need to trim around this letter. I'm going to be mainly using my scissors, but I might get a craft knife out to do the more fiddly bits. If you're doing something like this, do take your time with it. You know, there is no rush, unless you're in a rush, and if you're in a rush, then maybe this isn't the best choice. Given the curves we're working with here, I am going to get out my cutting mat. So just slipping the cutting mat underneath here, so that I only cut this layer of paper. And then I'm going to very carefully cut out my paper using my craft knife. Carefully, because craft knives are very sharp and I do not want to cut myself, but I also don't want to cut anything on my paper that I don't intend on cutting. Your letter is fragile, please be careful. Your fingers are also fragile, we don't want to hurt them. This is going to be the most stress-inducing part of this setup because craft knife skills are not skills I have a lot of. Beautiful! We're just gonna go neaten some pieces up to make it look even more beautiful. Especially in here because this part looks a little bit weird. There we go. That looks pretty alright, I think. And I also want to make this bottom corner look finished, so I'm gonna punch that out with my corner rounder. Nice. Nice and smooth. The one at the top here I'm not going to be able to do with the corner rounder, I don't think, because the letter's in the way. I could try. Haha, live as few dare to dream. I can do anything. I'm a wizard. It's not perfect, but it is a fairly decently rounded corner. I can fix that up with my scissors. But, big reveal. Whoopah, look at that. Isn't that cute as heck? So we have July in little tabs. See, little tabs. So happy. You can see the Y kind of got away on me a little bit, but I think it looks very special. And the nice part about putting the washi tape underneath it is that they really kind of stand out. I think that the pink really pops. I thought that by the time I cut that out, I would have known what I actually wanted to do here, but I still have, like, no idea. But it turns out it's dinner time, so at least I have some time to think about it.
Several months later.
Yep, I still have no idea what I want to do, but I think what we're going to go with is just this pattern repeated on this section, but the watermelon slices are going to be a little bit bigger. So, pencil, then pen, then colouring in. Having these larger pieces of watermelon just fills the space really nicely, and as I said, they are super simple to draw out. The nice part about them being bigger is that the time taken for these is a lot less compared to the smaller pieces of watermelon. There's less outlining to do, and the colouring in is less fiddly. If you made it to this point in the video though, let me know in the comments below, what is your favourite fruit? Mine is probably a green apple, mainly because you can make it into an apple pie. But I also like pretty much any fruit if it's in ice cream. I think that counts too. There we go, nice and simple because we've already got the header for the month along the side here. Project list done, cover page done, flipping over though, and we're on to the monthly log. So you can see I've already gone and put in our little decoration at the top and the initials for each of the days of the week. Same font style as we had on the front. First things first, I'm going to add in my calendar boxes. Now to do this, last month I put the dots in first so that then I had them kind of out of the way, separated from the actual event space, and I think I'm going to do that again because otherwise once you put the full border in and then you put the dot in, you're actually limiting yourself quite a lot in terms of space. So taking our dot marker again and just putting those dots into the top left hand corner of all of the places that I want my boxes to go. And I'm not pressing down like super hard on this, but I am pressing down a little hard because I want that dot to be pretty pronounced. You can see this is another element that I've gone in ahead of time and penciled out what I want here. So each of my boxes, as per usual, are 6 squares across by 6 squares down, or 3 centimeter by 3 centimeter squares. Something different for this calendar compared to what I usually do. Typically I have 4 days of the week on one page completely, and the other 3 days of the week on the other page. But because I've cut down the sides to make space for that Dutch door, this time I'm going to have Thursday in the middle here. So it's still the 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters, it just spans the crease of the journal. For putting in the boxes, I'm going to make use of the colours that we've already used in the Tombow dual brush markers, but also black because we've got black around the outside edge and I think it'll tie in nicely. So I'm going to do dark pink, bright pink, light green, bright pink, green. No, I'm going to put the black in between those two. Tucking these off to the side, and we'll start with the pink, I guess. Now, I'm just outlining where I want those boxes to go, and I'm doing a slight rounding on the corners. Another style choice. I'm going to take my time with this because as I am drawing it in by hand, like hand drawn, not ruling them, I want to try and make the outside edges pretty straight, and I always have a tendency, and it's usually somewhere down here, to slip. I don't want that. It would be nice to have a month where that didn't happen. This has very much been one of my favourite ways to do my calendar recently, so having all of the different coloured boxes from the colours in my colour palette. I just think it's a nice way to bring more of your colour palette into your spreads, so another simple decorative element that you can include. We're in the home stretch. Let's see if we can do this without stuffing it up. I feel like just by saying that, I have jinxed myself. Going in with my Inkjoy, we're just going to number the calendar, so putting those numbers into the little pink dots that we put out before. To fill this section at the bottom, we're going to be putting in more of those watermelon slices, but before I get to that, I actually want to colour in the back of this J, just so it looks, I don't know, not so plain on the other side. Get rid of my pencil line. Because I want to be pretty precise with this, I am again going to get out the washi tape and just mask off the page. I only want to colour in the back of the tab itself, not any of my monthly log. We're also going to put a piece of paper underneath this just because I don't want to get any on my to-do list. I'm going to use the bright pink for this one. So it stands out nicely, but we don't have any pink on the to-do list and we can't see any around the J here. Let me just pull up that washi tape. Beautiful, crisp edge. Now onto our watermelon slices, starting with pencil first. Safety. So the sketching out, the black outlining, the dark green line, the pale green line, the pale pink line, the more saturated pink, the pink triangles, the green circles, and the darker green dots. You can see I continued those little decorative elements, the little triangles and circles around the calendar as well, and I think that it kind of blends nicely into that panel we did on the to-do list. So the monthly log is done, and now we're flipping over to our challenge page and our action list. You can see that I've already gone and put some things in here, so just repeated elements that we've already had. An additional element that I've added though is this simple cursive lettering for the monthly challenge header and also for the list portion of action list. I find it nice to have two repeated fonts in any given month, one that's a bit simpler and one that's a bit more decorative. That way when it comes to doing my weeklies, it doesn't look odd if I'm using a simpler lettering style on those. So elements that we've already looked at, we've got those little decorative shapes, we've got the heading style that we've been using, those banners that we used on the front page, and on here we do have some little watermelon slices, but they look just a little bit different. And that's because for our monthly challenge here, I have my key at the top, you can see, the pale pink is going to represent not done, whereas the darker pink with the seeds is going to represent done. So if I have them all colored in with light pink first, on any day that I don't do the thing, I can just not color it in. But for any day that I do, I can go over with the darker pink to signify that that one has been done. So filling in my key first, so not done for the light pink and done for the dark pink. At this stage I haven't actually decided what my monthly challenge is. I have an idea of what I want it to be, and that fits really well with this idea of done versus not done, rather than to what extent was something done. But we do have a couple of pieces at the bottom to fill in here, so that's what we're going to do now. Same process as before though. You can see I've already gone and put in the triangles, or the kind of sketched out little watermelon slices. I just need to pen things in and then color them in. And in terms of the coloring, I'm only going to be doing the light pink, not the light and the dark. The nice part about this monthly challenge tracker is that the watermelon slices are pretty easy to draw, so it wasn't too difficult to set up. Honestly, the most difficult part is getting the placement of the watermelon slices where I want them to be, to make it so that they actually look like they're well spread out, but still randomly placed. Something that I am going to add in though are seeds on the not done element on the key. This way I can actually tell the difference between something having not been filled in versus me actively saying that the thing wasn't done. So any day, regardless of completion, I should be jumping in here to fill this in, either to just draw the seeds in or to color it in the darker pink and then draw the seeds in. Onto the action list. So the sections we have here, I do need to go put their headers in. So this one at the top are the one-off or monthly tasks. We then have the weekly tasks. So you can see I've got little numbers for each of the weeks that we have in the month coming, 1 through 5, and then I can list out those items beside them, and effectively anytime any of those things are done, I can just highlight which week they were done in. So if you have a look at how this looks on my current one, anytime I've highlighted it in grey, that did get done in that week. Anytime it's in black, it didn't get done for that week. These ones down the bottom are my daily actions, but rather than just writing daily task on each of them, I am actually going to label them with what the daily task is. I just haven't decided what they are yet. In terms of the one-off, I did write on-off, which is not quite right. There we go. One-off and monthly tasks looks better. I'm going to go and put in those pink dots down the side here to make my checklist. But that's looking pretty good. Mini calendars down the bottom here, or simplified mini calendars, which again I can just color in for any of the days that I do get the task done. And then the one-off tasks up here, I can just tick them off as they happen. Flipping over though, and we're on to some new additions, or kind of like things that I'm bringing back into my monthly setup. So you can see we have a meal planner and a steps tracker. For the meal planner, again, repeated elements, decoration down the bottom, decorative header. We've got those pink dots for the list. What we need to add in here though are the headers. So each of these columns are going to represent a different meal out of like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm not going to plan out my snacks. I think that's a little bit too much for where I'm at in terms of my meal planning. But the pink dots here are going to serve as effectively a checklist, so I can check off when I actually did eat the meal I planned to eat, because that's something I'd like to keep track of. For the steps tracker, we also need to put in our header to signify what each of these boxes mean, and they are each going to represent 1,000 steps. When I fill in my steps tracker, I'm going to want to fill these in color order. So I'm thinking that the first 2 can be in the dark green, then the next 2 can be in the light green. I'm not going to have any in the white because it's kind of hard to fill in with white, because then you're like, is it just filled in with white or did it not get done? So then we'll move into the light pink and then into the darker pink. So starting with 0. So this line here represents no steps, and then this next line represents 1,000 steps. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and then 9 and 10. So anything up to the 2 gets filled in with dark green, anything up to the 5 gets filled in with light green, anything up to the 8 gets filled in with pink, and then beyond that we fill it in with dark pink. So each of my days should end up with like a kind of little gradient that transitions from dark green through to dark pink, if I get up to dark pink. For this one here, I think we're gonna go with doing the banner that we had here and then just labeling inside each of those. Given the sizing of this, I think I'm going to do one continuous banner rather than 3 separate ones. Otherwise, each of those banners would be relatively short. So, washi tape because we need to mask the page. Looking at it now, I probably could have gotten away with doing 3 separate ones, but I quite like it just all being together. So the header for the meal planner is in, the header for the steps tracker is in, we have our beautiful grid, which took me a hot minute, and nobody needs to see that, it's just rolling lines. Flipping over though, and we have the July in Review and Notes page. These two again, a bunch of those repeated elements we've been doing. I do need to put in some more header bars for my July in Review. I just wasn't too sure on the spacing yet, so we'll get to that. Something that is different for the notes page though is that we have that washi tape panel in, so that when you close everything up you can see our beautiful letters. And we've also got these pink lines that I've put down the page, which, to be completely honest, didn't turn out quite the way I wanted them to. I was looking for a pink that was lighter than the one we've been using for these headers, and turns out the pen was kind of too small, so I had to go over it a bunch of times, so now it looks a little sketchy, but once I write on it, it'll be fine. What we do need to do though is map out where I want my month in review sections to go. Now, comparing the space I have for this month in review to our current month in review, this one has like 3 centimeters less space, so I think I'm gonna need to either pad these sections out or I'm going to have to add another section in, which I don't really think I need any more sections. I think these ones work quite well. I might just, after this part, just split these ones evenly. So you can see I've already mapped out where I want that ratings section to go, so it's just taking this one, splitting it into 3 equal parts, which it looks like it's going to allow it quite well, which is nicely. Each of those is going to be about 5 centimeters. Now as the header bars are in though, we actually need to go and put the text in. Text is good. That tells us what those sections actually mean. I do think that my month in review spread needs a little bit of a review. It'd be nice to possibly include some new sections in there, but I think I might look at that for our next monthly setup. Flipping back, I am super chuffed with how all of these pages turned out. I love the contrast of the bright colours with the black outlines, and I think that we've done some fun things to tie our theme into all parts of the setup. If you guys were looking for some more inspiration for monthly setups, do be sure to check out the playlist we have on screen here, or if you were looking for July in particular, I do have a playlist of just July setups. As always team, thank you for watching, and until next time, bye!